Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the Cryptoverse. Today, we're going to talk about Ethereum, and we're going to be providing a general market update. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and check out Into the Cryptoverse Premium at intothecryptoverse.com. You can also sign up for the ITC newsletter, links in the description below. Let's go ahead and jump in. So if you remember at around the time of the merge, so going into the merge, I was fairly adamant that Ethereum was likely going to be a sell the news event, and that we were looking at a secondary distribution phase on the Ether Bitcoin pair, and likely another rejection off the bear market resistance band on Ethereum. Now that we've had time to process the merge and price action has sort of adjusted accordingly, I wanted to provide a general update. So you can see, as you know, fairly clearly that in fact it was yet another rejection off the bear market resistance band. We came straight back up to the 21-week EMA at around $1,800, and it was a fairly clear rejection. Okay, and we've talked about this many times. Is that in a bear market, you generally just keep assuming that you'll get rejected, and then eventually we're going to get down to a more realistic accumulation phase. Which, I mean, it could be a function of where the price is. It could also be somewhat of a function of time. But this is just simply something we've seen many, many times before. And one of the things we talked about was how we also saw a 128% rally or so by Ether over here that got rejected off the bear market resistance band back in 2018. We saw the exact same thing, right? It's just the exact same thing that we saw back then. Fairly clear rejection. And then we've been coming back down ever since. So I do think that it's played out more or less how we would have expected it. Just simply another rejection, and we'll likely try again in the future. If you're curious about where the regression band is, as always, it's all the way down there. You can see where it currently ranges from. The range on the lower regression band is approximately 458 to 952. The fair value of ETH, according to this logarithmic regression band, which again is fit to quote-unquote non-bubble data, is at $660. So it'd be about another 50% correction from here for us to get back down to what this regression band would say is in fact the fair value. Now I know that seems kind of crazy, and I'm not saying we have to go there, but it always, I mean, the lower regression band is there, as it always has been, and sort of, where we ultimately find support in these bear markets. So something to keep an eye out on if in fact we continue to go back down to our June lows, and if we take out those June lows, I'll be looking towards the lower regression band as some potential support level. If you remember, it wasn't even that long ago that we left this regression band. A few years ago, we were at $200. We said this is the accumulation phase of a lifetime. We're going into a period of high liquidity, and I know it should ultimately lead into a bull market, and we've seen that. But as I've said before, a lot of times these things can sort of just return back to the regression band when it gets back into a bear market. So I do think we should at least continue to be somewhat cautious on this and recognize that these things can in fact happen. And in fact, the Ether Bitcoin pair, as we discussed in the video a few weeks or a week or so ago with the ETH merge, we talked about how this just looks like Bitcoin USD in 2021 with your initial Wyckoff distribution phase, and then you have sort of a secondary distribution phase going into the Ether merge. If you're not familiar with what Bitcoin did back in 2021, right, it had that initial Wyckoff distribution phase, and then it had sort of that secondary distribution phase, like a 1-2 punch on the final distribution, separated by like 20 to 30 days. You saw the same thing happen on the Ether Bitcoin pair as well. So arguably it is playing out like a distribution phase. It doesn't mean it can't go up occasionally, and I mean even Bitcoin USD had some rallies back along the way as it came back down. But I still can't help but look at this and think it looks very similar to what we saw Bitcoin do back in 2021. The other thing to consider is that you have things like the Dow putting in a lower low. Okay. The Dow's putting in a lower low. The S&P is getting close to putting in a lower low itself. The NASDAQ is getting close to putting in a lower low. Bitcoin's also getting somewhat close. Ethereum is much further away from its own lower low. I mean, it'd have to drop like another 30% for us to get there. And in fact, if Bitcoin were to go and put in a lower low, I think there's a good chance Ether would. Therefore, if Ethereum has to put in a lower low, if Bitcoin does, and Ethereum has a lot further to fall, which could manifest itself on the Ether Bitcoin pair. And that's why I'm saying this looks like a distribution phase to me, because I don't think Ether is going to outperform Bitcoin in any sustainable way, for the next several months. So just something to consider. Again, I mean, I do like ETH long term. I will become an Ether bull again. I just hope that you can at least appreciate trying to take an objective stance. And while fundamentally I like ETH and I think it's going to be great in the future in terms of the price action, I think it's important for everyone to reserve the right to say, you know what, there are periods where it's fine to be a bear. And under these macro conditions, I think it makes complete and total sense. Doesn't mean we're not going to have bounces. Doesn't mean everyone's not going to go YOLO back in because of another bounce. But at the end of the day, I've been pretty bearish on Ethereum for 2022, and I mean, it's just one rejection after another, right? I mean, a rejection here at around 3,400, and then another rejection at around 2,000, then another rejection at 1,800, and the bear market resistance band continues to go down, and currently it's sitting at around 1,552 up to 1,750. So I mean, if we were to get some type of rally back up, that's sort of the line in the sand that you need to keep an eye on. We could always break above it, but remember, it doesn't mean a thing if we can't sustain it. And what you really should be looking towards, I suppose, is say the 200-day SMA if we break back above the bear market resistance band at some point. I mean, at some point we will break back above it, and then we'll have to figure out, can it get back above the 200-day? That was noticeably where it was rejected back in April of 2022, and currently it sits at around $2,000. So that's the line in the sand that would need to be broken if, in fact, we can get back above the bear market resistance band. All right, so hopefully this is at least somewhat informative as to sort of the outlook on Ethereum. Do recognize that Ethereum, it can drop a lot quicker than Bitcoin at the tail end of bear markets. Okay, this is something we know. It's something we've seen many times before. Well, maybe not many times before. We certainly saw it in 2018, where at the very end, Ethereum dropped a lot quicker than Bitcoin did at the very end of the bear market. So just something to consider. Again, I don't know when these things are exactly going to play out, but I think in general, the general expectation of Ether continuing to show weakness against the US dollar is playing out. And I think the argument of this being a secondary distribution phase has at least played out so far. Only time will tell if that theory holds any water or not. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe if you're not subscribed. Give the video a thumbs up. We also do have the free newsletter. You can find a link to that in the description below, and also check out ITC Premium at intothecryptoverse.com. That'll wrap it up for this video. Subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.